Hello everyone and welcome to CoinSmart. Today we are going to present you the story of Steve Jobs. Here it is. I dropped out of Reed College after just 6 months, but I didn't leave entirely, not right away. I stayed around for another 18 months, attending classes as a drop-in before finally stepping away for good. Why did I drop out? Well, to understand that, you'd have to go back even further to before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student. She decided to put me up for adoption, but was adamant about one thing: I should be adopted by college graduates. Everything was arranged for me to be adopted by a lawyer and his wife, but when I was born, they changed their minds. They had been hoping for a girl. My parents, my real parents, were on a waiting list when they got a call in the middle of the night. "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They didn't hesitate for a second. They said, of course. But it wasn't that simple. When my biological mother learned that my mom had never graduated from college, and my dad hadn't even graduated from high school, she refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented when my parents promised. Her promise that I would one day go to college. And 17 years later, I kept that promise. I went to college, but I naively chose one of the most expensive schools in the country, almost as costly as Stanford. My parents, who were working class, poured every penny of their savings into my tuition. After 6 months, I started to question it all. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I had no idea how college was going to help me figure that out. Worse, I could see my parents' entire life savings disappearing before my eyes. I couldn't justify it anymore. So I decided to drop out and trust that things would somehow work out. It was terrifying at the time, but looking back now, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. Once I dropped out, I stopped taking the required courses that didn't interest me and started dropping in on the ones that fascinated me. It wasn't as glamorous as it might sound. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I collected Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food, and every Sunday night, I'd walk 7 miles across town to the Hare Krishna temple just to get a decent meal. But despite all that, I loved it. Following my curiosity led me to unexpected places. One day, I stumbled into a calligraphy class. Reed College had some of the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Everywhere on campus posters, labels, signs was beautifully hand calligraphed. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the spaces between letters, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, artistic, subtle in ways that science couldn't capture, and I found it fascinating. At the time, none of it seemed to have any practical application. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. We built beautiful typography into the Mac. It was the first computer with multiple typefaces and proportionally spaced fonts. And because Windows copied the Mac, that influence is now in every personal computer. If I hadn't dropped in on that one calligraphy class, the Mac wouldn't have had those beautiful fonts. And if I hadn't dropped out of college, I never would have had the freedom to drop in on that class. Looking forward, it's impossible to connect the dots in your life. You can only connect them looking back. So you have to trust that the dots will connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, karma, whatever. That trust, that faith will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.